In this video, we are going to talk about Features on Demand and .NET Framework 3.5 on Windows Server 2016. Features on Demand as a concept first came out in Windows Server 2012, and it's actually a pretty cool thing. To simply explain it, think of it in the following way. All roles and features that you can install on Windows Server basically are formed from different binaries and other types of files. And for example, on a server that does not have yet DNS installed, you can install it easily because all those binaries that are needed for DNS are actually kept on the C drive in a folder called WinSXS or Windows Side-by-Side Store. And the cool thing comes in the fact that if you would want to reduce the size that all these features or roles occupy on a server, you could remove them, the binaries I mean, in case you know that you will never need them. For example, if you will have a file server that you know will never have DNS, DHCP, Hyper-V and so on it, you can remove the binaries for all those roles. And the good thing is that in case at some point in time you change your mind and you want to install one of those roles that you removed, even though it's not on the hard drive anymore, you can get it back. And there are a couple of sources that you can use for this, like Windows Update or the install Vim directly, or maybe a folder where you mounted the install Vim, or a shared drive where you have those files copied, and so on. So you have a couple of options to do this. One thing to keep in mind regarding features on demand is that compared with Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2, in 2016 and up, unfortunately, you cannot switch from server core or to server with a GUI or vice versa, because the graphical tools are not features on demand anymore. So you have to choose from the beginning if you want to install a server core or a server with a graphical interface. So check it out. Let's say that we have a server SRV1 and we have the WinSXS folder with all its features. Let's consider this is DNS, Hyper-V and Active Directory. We want to install Hyper-V, so we install Hyper-V on this server. We take it from the SXS store and we go here and actually install it as a role, and everything is fine. But we think, why should I keep Active Directory and DNS on this server if I don't need them? So you decide, of course, to remove them. We remove Active Directory, we remove DNS from WinSXS. If something happens and you need, for example, to install DNS again on this server, then you have a couple of options. You could insert the DVD, the installation DVD, and take them from the Vim image from that DVD, or you could have somewhere locally on this server, maybe on a USB drive, a folder, a local folder with all these files. You could take the DNS feature from there. You could also have a shared folder somewhere. You could take the files from that shared folder, or you could use directly the internet if you have access and take the files from Windows Update. Whichever method you use is not important. What is important that if you want to install DNS with one of these methods, firstly it will be placed back in your WinSXS store, and it will also be installed on your server. So let's take a look at how features on demand works. First, with this command, we can list all the features that the server has, either installed or not, and the status tells us the availability of the feature. For example, XPS Viewer, you see that it's available. This means that the feature or role is not installed, but it is in the side-by-side store. If we go one row up, we see that the status is installed for WoW64 support, which means that so this feature is not just in the side-by-side store, but it's actually installed on the server. And if I am lucky enough, we can also find a feature with the status removed. When you see removed, this means that this isn't even in the side-by-side store, and if you ever want to install it, you will need the installation media or a folder or some place that has the binary for this feature. And if you would want to get only the removed features and roles, the second command can help you with this. And on a server with a GUI, this is what we get, only these two. And let's see how we can actually remove ourselves a role to see how it works. For example, I deduce that I will not need wins, so I remove Windows feature wins, and I specify this parameter, which would not only uninstall wins if it was installed, but it would remove the binaries from the side-by-side store. So now if I run this command, since I don't have wins installed, it will only remove it from the store. So now wins is removed, and if we use the above command, now we get 3 items with removed. Let's say that we made a mistake and we want wins back for some reason. Why would someone want wins back? I don't know, but let's say that we do. We have a couple of options like we talked about to recover it, and in this video I'm going to be using directly the WIM image that is located on the installation DVD. So on this server, under the D drive, I have the DVD mounted, and if we go to sources, we will find the install.wim, and this file actually contains all of our roles and features. And to recover wins from that file, we would use this command. But first, in case you don't know exactly how WIM images work, let's get some info about this image. And check it out. Even though we have one WIM image, this actually contains 4 operating systems, or 4 flavors of the same operating system. And they can be accessed via the index. So index 4 is server data center, index 3 is data center core, 2 is standard, and 1 is standard core. Since right now we are running standard, I'm going to recover the files from the index 2. So this is the 2 that I'm talking about in my next command. And as you see, install Windows feature wins, and I give it the source as a WIM file, and then the path to the WIM file and the index. Let's try it out. And there you go, now we have wins installed. So when you use this command, you can't just say I want it in the side-by-side store. It will be placed in the store, but also installed as a role or feature. And of course, if you would not want to use the WIM, but for example a folder, a local folder or a shared folder, this is the way you would do it in this command. Let's now talk about .NET Framework 3.5. So .NET Framework 3.5 is also a feature on demand, but this is a special case. It's a special case because this feature is not included in the installation Vim. So if you would want now to install it, you would not be able to install it because it's not in the WinSXS, and you would not be able to use the command from before using the Vim because it's not there. .NET Framework 3.5, it's actually directly on the DVD. So on the DVD you have the install Vim, and you also have a folder with .NET Framework 3.5 in it. Or of course you could just use Windows Update. Or you could copy the .NET Framework files to a local or shared folder and install it from that. So on my server, if we go on the DVD with Windows, you will see that you have this sources folder directly on the DVD. And this is the folder that contains also .NET Framework 3.5. So to install it, we would just use the normal install Windows feature command with the name of the feature, and the source would be the sources SXS. So if I run it and wait a couple of seconds, .NET Framework should be installed. And there you go. Now we have also .NET Framework 3.5. And this was it for features on demand on Windows Server 2016. If the video was helpful for you, please like it and share it. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing, as then you will be notified when I put out new videos. And thanks a lot for watching.